So I've been on this journey, um, finding myself again as a photographer. I kind of, I don't know, burn out, I guess you could say. And I'm starting again because I've missed it so much.
What's going on with the cliff?
So I want to start a new journey of getting back into photography, and I want you to come with me. So let's just say you've always liked photos and you want to get into photography, but you don't know how. How should you start getting into photography in 2026? If you've watched my other video that I posted, I got into photography in the late 90s, early 2000s, back in the day of shooting film. And then I graduated high school and started my big boy job and kind of let all of my fun die off, and I quit shooting photography. Back then it was a lot different because it was film. It was a whole process, and you had to try to capture everything perfectly, in your 35 shots that you had or whatever it was. And then you spent hours in the dark room developing stuff, finding out tricks when you were developing stuff to make the photo come out a certain way. It's a completely different game now, at least in my eyes. I think now it's easier to become a photographer than what it was then, especially with the boom of the internet and social media that has happened since then. So fast forward a little bit of time, probably 10 or 12 years ago, I started shooting photography again, and I shot every weekend for like 10 years. I did a lot of stuff for corporate events. I did some brand deals. I did some brand deals / fitness deals with models and brands. A lot of live music. A lot of local or city festivals, coverage for that. And I also did shoot a lot for a lot of churches around town. Somehow or another, they found my photography style and liked it, and then commissioned me to be a photographer for them. So if I was a new photographer right now, starting out, which I'm actually pretending I am because I'm starting to do vlogging stuff with it too. I absolutely am terrified of vlogging. Typically don't know what to talk about, and I don't like speaking in public unless it's something I'm super comfortable with. Like one of my other hobbies is paintball. I play competitive paintball, and I'm super confident with player coaching teams and giving pep talks and talking to everybody about that. Photography was different for me for a long time until I kind of found my niche in photography. And here's how I found my niche. I have friends that are, I guess you could say, more of like portrait and wedding photographers. And I thought that was cool because they made a ton of money doing it. I shot a couple weddings, and it really wasn't my vibe. Then I have another friend who shoots a lot of live music for really, really well-known brands. I'll drop his name. It's actually the person that got me into photography. His name's Nick Fancher. Look him up. He's absolutely an amazing photographer. And I remember when he got into photography with another one of our friends, and that got me interested in photography. But Nick shoots all kinds of huge bands. Like he's shot Korn. He's shot Ghost. He's got a bunch of billboards with Ghost and magazine covers with Ghost. He shot Saul Williams, Kevin Hart. Like, he's done everything. He is an amazing photographer, and his style is crazy. And I've tried to shoot his style. I can't really, I didn't feel comfortable shooting his style. I didn't feel comfortable shooting weddings. So what really kind of helped me dial in who I am as a photographer was actually ViewBug. It's just a website where you post your photos, but they also have photo challenges, and you can win stuff with the photo challenges. I actually won a mission, I think it's called Mission Design, Mission something backpack and sling bag. It's like a $1,200 combo, and I won that in one of the photography challenges. But what I liked about Viewbug was I always did the challenges, and there'd be like black and white portrait, there would be like black and white landscape, there would be like show color in natural environment or nature, portrait, like just there's all these competitions to do. And I did a lot of them, and I did very well in a lot of them, ranked pretty high, and I also did very poorly in some of them. And that's kind of where I started to figure out what type of photographer I was. Like I said, weddings, I'm not a big wedding photographer. I've done a couple weddings. I really don't like the let's plan everything, set up, at 9 a.m. I'm shooting the bride. At 9:30 I'm shooting the groom and his friends. Then I'm shooting people sitting at the wedding and the family. And then, I'm shooting the ceremony, and then after the ceremony, I have XYZ 1, 2, 3 group photos. That just wasn't my style. I did a couple weddings like that. I did a couple weddings where I shot more of my style, which was candid. I believe in capturing true moments and not trying to pose a moment. So I'm more, as I was finding myself as a photographer, I'm more of a street photographer than anything else. And I say that because a lot of my photos that I really, really like and I feel really, really passionate about are actually like landscape or like architectural photos. And it's just finding like cool angles on a building, or like cool graffiti on a building, or like a tree that's fallen over from a storm and how it's split and decayed. Stuff like that. So if I was starting out again today, if you're starting out today, go on Viewbug and just do some of the challenges. That way thousands and thousands of people see your photos, they vote on them, they give you comments. A lot of times, they give you good feedback rather than just poor feedback because they're other photographers. That's one thing I would do. Another thing I would do is don't overly obsess on having the perfect camera, the perfect lens, like the perfect studio, like the perfect editing rig. Like none of that is real. The perfect gear does not exist. There's gear that is really good at certain things and really bad at other things. So don't worry about the gear. Focus on trying to get the vision that is up here out there. So, start off with a decent camera. You don't need, the latest and greatest full frame Sony that shoots 35 kajillion frames a second. I still even shoot to this day. I'm still on an A7 III. I got the A7 III like 2 years after it came out, maybe 3 years after it came out. Prior to that, I was a huge Nikon guy. Actually, I have a Nikon tattoo on my arm. That is the 50mm f1.4 Nikon lens. That's kind of what made me fall in love with street photography, was seeing photographers that use that lens and just the style they got out of that. So don't obsess over having the best gear. There's no such thing as the best gear. Each piece of gear has a specific need or a specific thing it's really good at. Like, I could be shooting this video on my A7. I'm using the Insta360 Lunar Ultra right now. I think this is awesome. Is it the best video quality? No, it's really good video quality though. I've only had it about a week. But the things that it does well, and I can work around everything else. Like, it's got decent audio, this detachable screen thing that's also a microphone. It follows me around. It's a gimbal that's stabilized. Is it as good as my Sony A7 III? No. is it good enough to get the job done and it convey the message that I'm trying to, pass here? Yes. So don't focus on gear so much. I would say get a good starter ASPC camera, a crop frame, whether that's Sony or Canon or something like that. There's also even really good point and shoots. Canon's got, I think it's called the G7. That's a really good point and shoot. I also have a Sony RX100 Mark V Model A, so RX100 VA. It's a point and shoot camera. It's got a 24-70 zoom lens on it. I've actually taken photos at weddings with that, and nobody could tell the difference once, I put the RAWs into Lightroom and edited the photo. Now, I used that camera in a specific way. I didn't use it for, extreme blown out backgrounds and super dramatic shots. But the thing I like about that camera is it's small, it's portable. I could clip it to my bag, myself, my belt. It could just fit in my pocket. And I used that camera mainly for the dance or the receptions going on, or the dancing at the reception, and just walking around and capturing quick candid moments. So I would have, my telephoto lens on my A7. I would have that thing in my pocket, take a quick snap. There's plenty of photos I have that people have in their albums of me on the dance floor. I would go on the dance floor, I would be goofy and be dancing and get photos like that. So you don't need the best gear to start. You just need something that is a good foundation to start. So even if you get an older Sony A6, 6000 series, or even if you want to go full frame because you realize more of your investment is in lenses, get the first A7. Get an A7 I. Or, if you're a Nikon guy or a Canon person or whatever, buy one of their first, generation or second generation DSLRs. I shot on Nikon for a long time, and I had, I had two 7000 series crop sensors. I had a D700. I had an 800 and an 810E. I got all of them second, third hand, used right when the whole mirrorless camera boom came out and the A7 Gen 2 was out. So I got them all for a decent price. I shot on those for years, and I had most of those because I could buy newer or better used full frame glass and it would work on all of it. So, I'm not saying Sony's the best, but just as an example, I shoot Sony now. So I really enjoy the Tamron lenses from Sony. They're not crazy expensive. They're lightweight. Almost all of them take the same filter threads, and they take really good pictures. So you could start out and buy a first gen A7. I think they're just a couple $100 now. You could pick up the Tamron 28-75. I think you can get them used for $400. You'd be under $1,000. You would have pretty much a dual camera, and you could start there. And then you could upgrade your camera, and that lens is still usable. You can even use that lens on the crop sensors. So it works perfect there. That's the other thing. If you get crop sensors, you can use the full frame lens on it. The focal distance will be a little bit different because it's full frame lens on a crop sensor, but you could still use that lens on something else. So don't worry about having the greatest gear. Okay, so let's move on a little bit now. So we've discussed that You should probably look at doing photo challenges. Like I said, ViewBug's good. Get a good bare bones camera system, preferably something with interchangeable lenses that you could maybe just upgrade the camera body in the future. Something else, you just got to get out and shoot. A lot of people want to try to master everything before they start, doing or advertising it. And you're not going to get good at it until you get out and do it a bunch. You look at the saying where they say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. Well, if you're waiting to get the perfect gear, the perfect studio, or mastering, everything theory-wise without really practicing it's going to take you a long time. I can say from my experience as a photographer, I was kind of that same way. I wanted to master, all the settings and how ISO and shutter and aperture all work together and make them all perfect all the time before I even wanted to share a photo. And that's the wrong way to do it. I mean, you should have a basic understanding of what, aperture is and shutter speed and all that stuff. But you really don't master it or find yourself until you do it a lot. Now, myself, with the way that I edit, my photos tend to be a little darker on the editing. I'll post some up or look at my first video. Actually, I'm going to take some today here as I'm walking through this park. But I tend to overexpose like 1 to 2 stops because when I edit, I pull the highlights down a lot so that everything looks really, really dramatic. It's not like super bright and poppy. It's almost more of like a dirty grunge feeling in my photos. And that's just my style. I've tried to shoot super bright and poppy, and I just really didn't connect with it at all. And I didn't have fun doing it either. I mean, there's times that I'll take photos like that I'm inspired in the moment, but a lot of the time I like to take photos of stuff and edit to where it almost looks like it's something you would see in like a post-apocalyptic movie or TV show. Like when you see all the rundown stuff in like the movie Ready Player One or in the show The Walking Dead or anything like that. I tend to edit that way in all of my photos, and that's what makes my photos my photos. So with that being said, as you're getting into photography, don't try to be a jack of all trades. You'll never really find yourself, and you'll never really be happy with your work because you're always trying to mold yourself into something else instead of finding who you are as a photographer. All right, so I'm at a local rec center that is by my work. You can see in the first start of the video, I was walking in like this wooded area, but there's this crazy, I wouldn't say crazy old, it's an older barn. I think it's at least 50 years old. But there's 2 of them here. They look pretty cool. You can get really good photos off of these. Another thing I try to do in photography is when you first start out, like, you take every photo just like this. Here we go. It's got lines, let's make them look symmetrical, and it looks kind of boring. But if you change like your angle, or if you come down like really low at something or like really high at something, or like a goofy angle like this, or say you just want to get the meter in the photo like this, changing your angle changes the perspective of the photo, and it can really, really change a lot of it. Like the photos that you could get here are great. Like you could have a subject at the end of all these poles, and you use all these poles like over top with all of them out of focus and your subject down there to have a leading line going to the subject. It doesn't have to be straight on, but using, some architecture or something in nature as a leading line to draw the eye to your subject really, takes a photo up a ton, instead of it just being your typical, like, I'm standing here and somebody took a photo with a Polaroid type thing. And you don't start realizing that until you start shooting photos that way, or you don't find your style that way until you start doing that. So really get out, experiment. Don't be afraid to take the photos. Just start doing it. Or video, either one. Like, excuse me, I'm doing video for the first time really, and I don't know what I'm doing exactly. I have a general idea of everything that I write down and kind of script out, and then I'm just trying to find myself as, a vlogger or videographer. Here we go too, just walking by this, you can see all these old tree stumps down here, and you have this sweet pond reflection over there. Figure out a way to take a cool photo of this. Take 10, 15 different photos, underexpose it, overexpose it, play with how you edit the photo, try to get the reflection of something off of the water. Say there was a bird out there, maybe zoom in on the bird, but try to get its reflection in the water too. A lot of this stuff you're not gonna be good at, and you're not gonna know how to do it until you start doing it a bunch and you start experimenting. Think of, photography or videography or vlogging as a sketch and then a painting. And, your sketch isn't perfect, but you get the rough thing down, then you start painting it, and it finally starts to come together. So kind of think that way too. All right, so I've detached my mic from this Luna 360. I'm at like this, I don't know, kind of like a lake at the area that I was just at. And there's a lot of cool reflections in the water. And I'm just going to try to get a good photo out of this, taking a bunch of different angles and, portrait, landscape, all of that. And then try to get a good image out of this. So we're going to do this live. So you're taking off the bag. And today, the only camera that I have for photos is a point and shoot. This is the Sony RX. Oh no, I knocked off my. Oh boy. So, anyways, it's a Sony RX 100 that I was talking about earlier. I have a little lens protector that just 3M sticky tapes on here, and it's been on for so long that it's pretty much come apart. It's falling off. But I'm going to try to get some different angles of photos here. So hopefully this thing tracks me. Alright, so I'm down here I'm down here really close to the water. I almost ate it. Sorry, I had to move the gimbal around to try to get photo. And now I'm going to see, just by playing with angles with the camera, if I can get a photo that I like. Like I said, this isn't, your top of the line, Sony. But the point is, I'm practicing my art, or the art of photography, and learning and getting better as I do it. So you have to put the hours in, and you can't be afraid to do it. So just do it. I mean, yeah, some people might say stupid stuff on the internet, but like I said, the best way I've found to get feedback, and I'm in no way associated with ViewBug, is get on a site like ViewBug, where you can post your photos and people will review them and rate them. And it just kind of gives you a sense of if what you're doing has an audience. Alright, I took a couple photos there. Oh, there's a beaver. I missed the beaver. Ooh, what was that? Oh, there's a family of beavers here. Hopefully I can get pictures of the beavers. But anyways, I just took a couple photos of... Oh man, that's really zoomed in on me. Sorry, everybody. I took a couple photos of the water and whatever type of grass this is growing down here. But I had the grassy type stuff as my focal area. And then I had the water reflection as the background. And it, you know, instead of just taking a photo, spin this around, instead of just taking a photo like this, I took the photo down here, gimbal up, I took the photo more of like this. And as you can see, like, it's a totally different perspective of the lake. And I've got a little foreground shot here and then some background. And you really don't find yourself as a photographer until you start thinking out of the box like that. So many people can just point and shoot, you know, say like their iPhone and take a picture of something. And the iPhone's a great camera. I mean, you can even do this with your cell phone. Start doing it with your cell phone. You can buy like a newer cage for your cell phone. I actually have one. I'll do a video on it or something, or talk about it. But it's just a cage that the cell phone goes in, and it has threads on it, and you can put like filters on it. You know, just a protective filter, you know, an anamorphic filter. They even make cheap little lenses that you can put on it, that you can zoom. You know, it's not going to be super spectacular like having a $10,000 camera setup, but if you frame your picture right and you have like a good creative vision and composition, and then you start tweaking your edit to, you know, convey the emotion that you're trying to achieve, you can get really good photos out of it. All right, we're at another super cool area of this rec center. It's on the other side of the lake. I'll spin you around here. So I was over there taking photos, and now you can see we have like this walkway right here. We've got a sign right here that says caution, bridge slippery, and you got a little bit of reflection right here. There used to be, and I'm sad it's not here, so this shows you how long it's been since I've been here. Way over here, there used to be a bridge in this area, and the bridge had like, it's one of those like covered bridges, and it was super cool because it was pretty dilapidated. So that's probably why it's not there anymore. But it made great photos. So now, like, just looking at this, where I'm at, you may think like, it's just a watery area, you know, nothing really cool. But let's try to get my favorite like low angle reflection photo of something, because, you know, we've got all the mossy water over there. Man, I can't get the tripod out on this thing. This Luna 360 has a little tripod on the bottom, and it's like these wires. And my day job is I'm a mechanic, so my hands, I don't have good fine motor skills. So anyways, we're going to try to get some photos over here. And let me get this centered. Zoom back out. I'm trying to do all this without editing that much, just so like you can, kind of see my process. So we'll set the bag down. We got the camera here, and I'm going to walk. Oh, my feet are wet. This might be a bad decision. Yeah, my feet are soaked. If you watched my first video I put up, I talked about preparing yourself with the proper gear. And one of the things I said was prepare yourself with the right gear, including shoes, because I wore these shoes again, and they're not the best in wet, slippery conditions. So here, I'm going to try to get... I can't even see this well. It's overexposed. This is where I wish I had my app set up, but I don't have my phone with me. Zoom out. Stop this down to like... Stop it down to like f2.8 maybe. f2.8. I'm gonna go f1.8. Crank the shutter speed. Change my ISO. See, I'm doing all of this pretty much live, so like nothing's been pre-planned. Just trying to get a good photo here. Another sweet thing about this camera that I really like, it has a built-in ND filter, so I can turn on an electronic ND filter and take my photos from there. I like to be a little bit overexposed. It's really not the shot I'm going for there. One thing that does stink about having a super small camera, the screen doesn't fully articulate around, so I can't see it a lot, and I obviously can't get down low enough to do that. So we'll see how that photo comes out. But there's like a hole over here in the concrete and a couple logs. We're gonna go over those and see if we can get any cool photos. So here's the one hole in the concrete. See where it's broken away. It's going down into the stream or overflow or whatever you want to call it. And if you look over here, this tree looks pretty cool. Some pretty cool roots down there. See if I can get a photo that I like out of this. Let's see if we can do this in live time again. Detach my little screen. This thing makes it so nifty. Just having this screen to kind of watch, frame stuff up, and not having to be behind the camera the whole time. Oh, I'm falling in if I do that. So I tried to sit down on this. Now you can't see me because I didn't set it to track me. But I tried to sit down over here and almost ate it. Some really cool like mesh wire in this concrete too. I'm gonna shoot it kind of overexposed. Let's see if I can get something to happen. Move these sticks out of the way. Sorry, you can't fully see me on the gimbal. Do this. Oh, come on. There we go. So let's see what we can get out of this little angle here. Little shot there. Little shot of those roots. I don't know if you can see those photos, but just some interesting stuff I found down here that I'm trying to record and well, trying to get some good photos of. Let me switch this gimbal back around since it's as we like to say here, cattywampus. So another thing, if you're just starting in photography, and I've kind of started to redo this myself, is I take an hour either before work or after work or whatever thing I'm doing, for the day, and try to find something on my way there or on my way back that I can just try to capture like one or two good photos at. Don't expect to have like 150 awesome photos at places like this. If you get, a handful, like 5, like that's pretty awesome. But the point of it is to get you to start thinking artistically and to get you to start using your imagination or creative skill to get photos. Like, this could even be a good photo right here. Excuse me. And this little pathway. Get that, I don't know, what's that? We're gonna call it the moon house. I think that's what my daughter calls it, the moon house. So we'll set the gimbal down, looking at the moon house. We'll get out the camera, see if we can get a good photo of the moon house through here. And I really overexposed the photo on this to try to bring down the highlights in the sky so that I could really try to make this thing pop, make it look more three-dimensional. I don't know if it's a proper technique and or term. It's just something that I do a lot of, is overexpose and pull the highlights out to try to, make the subject stand off a little bit more. This could even be cool. Just get goofy angles. I'm not going to take a bunch of photos today. Just trying to show some stuff in the video to give you like ideas of, stuff to take photos of starting out. All right, so I'm going to call it quits here. I just wanted this to be short. I said I only took photos of like really 3 things. I don't even know if they came out good. I'm not even worried if they came out good or not. It was more of trying the process of putting yourself in the mindset of getting the best out of what you have, like image wise or video wise. And you will only get good at that by doing it. You have to practice it a lot. Then you start learning like certain things that like you always do. You always see, photographers, or like even if you look at musicians, like I'm a big Zakk Wylde fan. He was one of Ozzy Osbourne's guitar players, and he has his own band, Black Label Society, and now he's playing in Pantera. But one thing that he always does when he plays is he uses pinch harmonics a lot, like artificial harmonics, like rolling his thumb into the string kind of makes that squealy noise. He made it really famous on Crazy Train when he started playing Crazy Train. And he puts that in like almost every song that he writes and plays. And your photography work or your videography work or your vlog work or your painting, whatever, you'll find something that you really enjoy doing, like an element or an ingredient that you like adding into your recipe. And once you nail that from practice, it'll help form you into a better photographer, or like your photography like niche. And so just use this as like a challenge. You're going to start photography in 2026. Yes, it's halfway through the year, so let's make it an awesome year. Get a decent like core photography setup. You know, whether that's an APS-C camera that has interchangeable lenses that's used, or, you know, a 3 or 4 year old generation full frame camera that you could buy some decent used lenses for, because lenses really do make the difference. I can't stress that enough. Almost every camera in the last, I don't know, 7 years takes really amazing photos, but the lenses, man, just some lenses have some great, you know, character to them, and it makes the photo. Like, I've got a Tamron 20mm f2.8 for my Sony A7, and something about that lens, like taking the photos I took today with my point and shoot, I know the photo would be like 50 times better with my A7 in that lens, just because, you know, the focal range that it gives me, kind of how you can get super close with it and it blows out the background even at a high f-stop or aperture. So yeah, just get out, start shooting, get a bare bones kit, start doing photography challenges. Even if it's not ViewBug, I like ViewBug because, like I said, I'm not affiliated with them at all in any way, and I don't even know the last time I logged into my ViewBug account. It's probably when I first started shooting freelance under some stupid name, but it just had ideas already there. So like, if you don't have a starting off point for ideas, it's a good way to get ideas and to help expedite the process of figuring out what type of photographer you are. You know, it's not like go shoot a wedding, but, you know, there are some of them that are like, you know, go shoot portraits, and, you know, or family portraits, or, you know, try to shoot like a lifestyle photography thing. And it really just starts making you think. Or look for local photography clubs. There's one here in Ohio, in Columbus, and I actually forget the name of it now because it's been so long since I've been a part of it. But they would hold group shoots, and they would be like, hey, on this day at this location, we have XYZ models, and it's in a roller rink, and we want to do a 70s style photo shoot. Well, that's like 95% of the idea done for you. Now just go there and put your spin on the photo shoot. I actually did a lot of those, and it really helped me find what type of photographer I was. I'll try to dig up some old photos if I can from that. I just did have 2 hard drives crash, which is pretty detrimental to me because I don't know if I have them all backed up on Dropbox or not. But yeah, sorry for you know, babbling about this. It kind of just has been on me since I uploaded my first video. Just really, I wanted to try to help people get started as much as I could. I've met a bunch of awesome people through photography, and you know, that's something else that comes with it. The people that you meet, that, you know, you'll go out and do, you know, we call them photo walks. And there's plenty of times that we would go to, you know, a pizza place and have a couple drinks and then go out and take photos, or try to do night photography, or, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of cap it off there. You know, just the takeaways from my incoherent rambling today. Get something to start shooting on, even if it is your smartphone. Get one of the cage setups. You know, Movement makes them. They're pretty expensive, but you can jump on Amazon, and Newer makes a cage for your phone and some lens stuff. And it actually, you know, if you only have $100, that's a really good way to go. Get the Newer cage so you can slap lenses on lenses or filters, on your iPhone or whatever Android phone you have. And yeah, you're not going to have telephoto, but you can really focus on getting composition down, and you also can really focus on you know landscape photography, or like kind of day-to-day photography, almost like a vlog type style photography. And then like once you get more comfortable and you're like, oh man, photography is definitely what I want to do, buy yourself a used camera body and a used lens, or one of those starter kits. I think you can get the new Sony starter kit, the EVZ 10 or whatever, for like $500. So that's not a bad route, but don't go into a ton of debt doing this. Don't focus on all the hype gear. There's still plenty of photographers that are professionals and get paid tens of thousands of dollars for shoots that use older gear. Actually, my friend Nick that I was talking about, I think up until maybe 5 years ago, he was still shooting on like a Canon 1D. And he's like, it hasn't failed me, and I know it, and I learned on it, and it was home to him. It was an extension of his body, and he was just really good at taking photos with that camera. And I think the only reason he upgraded was the shutter finally went out on it, because it wasn't mirrorless, and the price of putting a new shutter in it, I think, was, he could have bought another used one or another used camera. I don't know 100% of the story. Nick's a very busy man, and we don't talk much anymore, but I did go to his studio a couple years ago, and like he still had his 1D. I was like, you still shooting this? He's like, yeah, I'm actually just now replacing it. So the newest camera is not going to make you a better photographer. It might have autofocus that's better, but learn how to manual focus. A lot of these new cameras have focus peaking, so you can set up a negative color that shows up on everything that is in focus or out of focus. Like mine, I have it set up to yellow, so I'll look at something, frame it up, and everything that has yellow flashing on it is in focus. That's also something else you can do to really start learning how and what your lenses and camera can do. But even then, just get something to start. Put it in manual mode so that you're setting your own, aperture, shutter speed, and all of that. And kind of, photography is not perfect. Perfect photography is boring. It's like any form of art. Paintings wouldn't be worth so much money if the human element wasn't so valuable. Because you can AI generate a perfect image now of pretty much anything, but the human element is what makes paintings so awesome. And part of that element is not perfection, it's the imperfection of us as humans. So don't focus on being perfect, just focus on getting out, taking that photo, making that video, doing that blog, and creating. I don't think as humans we're made to not create. A lot of people find passion and joy and happiness in this, even if they don't make money at it. It's just fun and enjoyable going to places and taking these photos and editing these photos while you're, binge watching something on Netflix, or binge listening to, as I do. I just put Netflix on the background and edit, on my iPad, because I edit all my photos on my iPad Pro. I don't even use the computer anymore for it. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to ramble on anymore and bore you guys with my incoherent old man talk. Just get something to start taking photos. Don't worry about the gear. Give yourself a challenge. Like if you see a place that you want to try to get that you think is interesting and you want to try to get 1 to 2 good photos out of it, that's fine. That's perfect. 1 to 2 photos is amazing. Or do the view bug so that you have some direction of the challenge that you want to, that's already out there. So it kind of takes some of that, you know, animosity or anxiety away from trying to plan something, and just try to get a couple good photos. I mean, if you look back in the day of when we shot film, we typically, if you got 10 good photos on a roll of film, like, you were like a Michael Jordan all-star. And so many people now, we call it chimping. They'll take a photo and they'll look at it instantly. Like, I rarely do that. I kind of get down, look at the angle that I want, find the angle that I want, kind of find a composition that I want, and take the photo. And I don't worry about it. I find a couple other spots, take photos, and then I go home and edit those photos, especially if I'm doing street photography. If I'm doing a portrait session, then I do kind of look at them a little bit more, because that is a little more important because you have limited time. But yeah, that's it. I'm sitting in this grass. It's driving me insane. It's making me itch like crazy, and there's ants all over me. So that is the end of my rants today. Get a camera, start shooting, find some type of challenge to do, or come up with your own challenge, and start learning your style. Don't try to fit into somebody else's mold, because you're not somebody else. Every one of us is unique in our own way. So find how to express what's unique about you through your photo or video. And everybody have a great day. And thanks for sticking through my ramblings here.